I'm here to tell you about some exciting new solutions we have from Dashbot. First, a little bit of background. As you heard from my earlier talk, we started back in 2016. So we've been doing, I guess, conversational data for a little over 3 years now. And back then, the Gartner hype cycle, I don't know if you all are familiar with this, in 2016, placed conversational user interfaces on the beginning of this hype cycle. For those of us that are working in it, the hype cycle actually feels like it lags what we actually are feeling in the market, but I think that makes sense from a Gartner perspective, like an outside perspective. In 2017, we were continuing, they for some reason changed their hype cycle from blue to white. I'm not sure about that. But they continued to see us moving up that hype cycle. In 2018, we've disappeared. So where did we go? In Gartner land, we're no longer considered an emerging technology. We are now on the customer service hype cycle. Awesome. So you'll find us on chatbots. So the reason I say this is because, as Artie mentioned in his opening keynote, customer service chat is one of the fastest growing sectors amongst our customers right now. A study done in 2016 showed that around the world, chat and messaging is really the #1 preferred channel for customer service. So this is back in 2016. And then naturally, a report by eMarketer in 2018 said that the preferred method for interacting with a brand is the live chat, especially amongst the segment of the 18 to 29-year-olds and the 30 to 39-year-olds. So automating customer service chat. Salesforce recently released a report all around the state of service. This was just this year in 2019, and they reported that 23% amongst service organizations are currently using AI chatbots, with 31% planning to use them within 18 months, with a combined growth rate of 136% over the next 18 months. So we're really excited about customer service as a use case and solution for this conversational interface. So we're very excited to announce today that we are integrating with Genesys, one of the leading customer service platforms out there. Yay, thank you Genesys for working with us. This is available right now. For those of you that are using Pure Cloud, it is a simple integration, and we're really excited about that. And to go over just kind of a very simple process for developing a customer service chatbot, working with a number of customers, we can analyze the historic chats, and using that data, you can then build the chatbot, and then continue to improve the chatbot. So this is kind of a very simple plan. Looks very much like my previous talk. It's converse, learn, and automate, and that cycle continues to go around and around. One bit of advice as you're building these chatbots for customer service: start simple. Really set your expectations low, because what we're really not wanting you to do is set the customer's expectation that you're building a fully sentient being, because this is really setting yourself up for success. Rather, start simple. Take a number. That is a great solution to build with a customer service platform. And what's awesome about building a customer service take a number bot is that since your expectations are set low, you can learn from these conversations and then in turn surprise and delight them. You can basically take a number, learn from the conversations, and then surprise your customers with the ability to handle things like, take a number first, maybe order status, and then build from there. And maybe in the future you can have a fully sentient being, but we'll see. Ultimately, you'll be tracking your containment and escalation. Someone before called this deflection as well, because really these are the main KPIs and goals for your customer chatbot that you should be building. Speaking of goals, we have another new feature we've launched called Goals and Conversion Funnels, because your application does have a goal, right? Hopefully it does. The typical goals of a conversational application are things like escalation or containment, purchase, subscription, or any custom goal you can have. It's programmatically configurable within the Dashbot dashboard. In this case, I'm configuring my escalation goal as anytime I see an incoming intent of speak to agent, which means that my customer wants to talk to a human. Once you've configured this, we'll tell you, obviously make a nice pretty chart, but tell you at a whole scale how many users have spoken with you, how many are contained, and how many are escalated. But even better, it's available now, and we can understand what leads to that particular goal. So in this case, prior to speaking to an agent, what are the intents that happen before that, up to 10 conversational turns prior to the speak to agent intent. We can see here that not handled, or one of my favorite intents, of course, happens 807 times prior to talking to an agent. We can then take this goal visualization and look at all of the paths that are leading to your particular goal, in this case, escalation, of course. So we can see here, that help to not handled to speak to agent is our top path that we're actually taking on our way to asking for a human. And then we can read all the transcripts with the goal completion. So this is back to transcripts. Because speaking of transcripts, of course, are one of the most common uses of Dashbot, which is totally and completely feasible when you're reading one transcript, or even 10 transcripts. And amongst 1,000 transcripts and stuff, it really starts to become a difficult problem. So we're excited to launch transcript search across all of your conversations. This is pretty exciting for us to launch as a solution. It allows you to search across full text, any intent, any user, any session length, any sentiment, and it allows you to really winnow down and find the conversations that you can learn the most from. But what happens when you have too many transcripts? We have also are announcing anomalous session identification. I feel like I should have better acronyms for these, but what this does, you have a big pile of transcripts. All of them are seemingly interesting, but some are more interesting than others. So what do? We use facets like length of the session, unique phrases, repeated text. So for example, if your chatbot has said something or your user has said something 5 times in a row, that is something you should definitely look at. So we'll highlight that for you in Dashbot. Extreme levels of sentiment, very happy sessions, very sad sessions, we'll highlight those up in Dashbot as well. And we'll all do that automatically. The transcripts are super valuable because it's, of course, your customer's own words. So how do you actually learn from your customers' conversations? This really is all about natural language understanding. The reason why we're here, the reason why that conversation as an interface is an opportunity for all of us is because of solutions and platforms like Dialogflow, Watson, Rasa, Lewis, Wit. All of these are natural language optimization tool, or natural language models and tools. And in order to train them, how do you actually train these models? You actually have to create the training data. And to create the training data, then you would train the intents. I wanted to take a slight personal aside here, actually, because as I've been working with all of these natural language data sets and training data and all these platforms, what I realized is that I am actually a new parent, and I have a language model of my own that I'm training, and it's my son, and his name is Jackson. So it's actually, I think, as we're looking at creating these conversations, what's very fascinating is I think someone before mentioned that the linguists among us, the language understanding among us, this is a very human interface that we're actually trying to build. Because when I'm creating training data for my son, a lot of the approaches that I'm thinking about are very similar to training up a chatbot to interface with the world. So just to bring it home for a second. So back to the training data. Creating training data is hard. How do you actually do that? You can go out and crowdsource it, you can go and make it up yourself, but one of the best ways you can do it is to really look at your incoming messages, that huge pile of messages that you're getting from the customers themselves around your chats. Also, of course, my favorite is the not handled messages, and we're seeing our customers go through and say, here's a list of 7 messages that you're getting from your customers. Let's see here. This one's okay, thank you. This one's a thank you. This one's a thank you. That one's a thank you. And they're doing this by hand. So taking these 4 messages, I can then say, cool, I can take this and train a not thank you intent. This is obviously quite tedious. And depending on how long you want to spend digging through all of your messages, that's either very fun for you or very not fun. And that's why we launched our feature Dashbot phrase clustering. So what this enables you to do is basically take all of the messages that you've sent and received and cluster them semantically. So based on a lot of the probabilistic approaches that we're now moving towards, we can see that this okay, thank you phrase cluster are all semantically similar. And in this exact example, the word thank you actually appears in just about every single message. But this is a semantically based model. So okay, thank you. And that was awesome, actually very, very close. So depending on the resolution of the phrase clusters that you set on Dashbot, you can get either very, very specific clusters like you have here, or wider clusters that are just semantically similar. And depending on the resolution of these phrase clusters, you can do various things with them. So in this case, I can see that, okay, thank you, all of these phrases that have been sent to me were not handled. And that's what the right-hand column is. That's a not handled intent. And then I can basically use these messages to train up, in my case, a thank you intent. And to also prioritize the training of the new intents. Because for me, if my top phrase cluster is about okay, thank you, that allows me to focus my most energy on the most common cluster of semantic meaning that my customers are sending me. So things like, how important is it to answer tell me a joke or who made you? Using phrase clusters, you'll be able to bubble up all of those phrases together and prioritize them in your intent training. It also works great for misclassified messages. What does this mean? So in this case, we have our thank you cluster once again. I've done my work of going through and training up my NLU model. And then once I've done that, now I'm seeing that, great. The first 6 messages were classified as my thank you intent. But then for some reason, cool thank you is being classified as small talk. So by doing this and clustering them in our semantic way, we can show you what your intents look like when we then cluster them semantically, and then because humans are pretty good at picking out kind of differences, we're enabling you to look through them and really understand the misclassified intents as well. So that's the small talk intent. So what that enables you to do is really work into your workflow process of understanding misclassified messages, because those are the ones you got right, and the ones you got right will lead you to understand the ones that you got wrong. And that's Dashbot. Phrase cluster is really excited. Available now with Dashbot Enterprise. So please come talk to us. We're really excited that you're joining us for this entire day of conversational discussions. We are Dashbot. We do conversational analytics, as you know. And I like to end with a conversation without listening is just kind of nothing, right? So please listen. Thank you, everyone.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions. Hold on a second.
Sorry, the question was?
I'm sorry, you had a level of all your thank yous. Yes. If somebody just said cool, would that be small talk or would that be a thank you? How would your engine interpret it?
So it's not our engine per se. So what we're doing is clustering it together with the other messages that you're receiving. So if you receive cool and awesome and rad, those might come together because they semantically mean similar things. But we're experimenting with ways to kind of suggest like an intent, but there's not. It's kind of just a similarity model where we're telling you and your data the clusters that are similar. Does that answer your question? Cool. Over there. Yeah.
Does this semantic clustering require that we define the semantics ourselves, or is this something that you already have as part of the tool?
Ryan is sitting right next to you. So that's Ryan, is one of our lead engineers that's working on this project. I don't know if you...
No, you don't have to define anything.
Yeah, so you don't have to define. So the answer to the question is you don't have to define the semantics that we're using. We have a language model that we're using for those clusters. Does that... Yeah, so basically you can send us a bunch of messages, historic text kind of, and we'll run that clustering across that corpus of data that you send us.
I think that's probably all we have time for right now, but
Cool.
please-
If you have other questions, find us after. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.